I'm Victoria Hartenberg, and this is my speech to the devotion. And here's my audience, my parents, my dog, and my sister Caitlin. Since the beginning of time, countless men and women have been altered by calling on God at an altar, creating a place of worship, sacrifice, and remembrance. These days, it seems like an altar has little to do with seeking God and more with just being the steps to a platform. If we want to seek God's face, we must come back to the altar in order that we may find our own lives altered. One way we are altered is through worship. We worship through the realization that I am not God, but that God is someone to be properly recognized. When I recognize His love for me, His forgiveness, and His mercy, I worship Him through my life, songs, and prayer. Romans 12:1 states, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship." In the Old Testament, Noah, Abraham, and many others create their own altars to worship and honor God. In our own lives, we find our own special places to worship at, a church, or even in our home to worship Him intimately. We are also altered through sacrifice. In Romans 12:1, God calls us to offer ourselves as living sacrifices. The issue with a living sacrifice, though, is that sometimes the sacrifice crawls off the altar. It's almost like a New Year's resolution. Every year, people make good resolutions, but quickly take it back when they realize what their resolution costs. The same happens when we offer ourselves as living sacrifices. Our intentions are good, our sacrifice is good, but all too soon do we bargain within our prayers and try to rewrite the contract. This is not so with Abraham, who was asked to sacrifice his son. He followed through until God was the one who changed the parameters, and providing him with a ram which was caught in a thicket. However, when we sacrifice to God something that is precious to us and may cost us something, it will forever create a bond and level of commitment between us and the Creator. Lastly, we are altered when we remember. Have you ever driven by a church or summer camp that you attended where you gave your life to Christ or went down to the altar to pray after an altar call? These are places that remind us of the moments where God met us, where God answered our prayers or calls for help. I myself can point out to you and my friends the places at the altar where I gave my heart to God, where I was changed at a winter camp, or even where I was filled with the Holy Spirit. The Israelites in Joshua 4 set up their own altar of remembrance. After God had parted the Jordan River for His people, like He had done with the Red Sea, the Israelites created an altar of 12 stones. They built an altar so the generations to come could be reminded of the things that God had done for them. Just as we go to the altar and where we remember all that God has done in our own lives. Why not take a moment today to make an altar and spend time in worship, remembering the final sacrifice of Christ on the cross and offering yourself daily to follow Him?